Joining me now, the man himself, O'Leary Ventures Chairman Kevin O'Leary. You know, Kevin, you reminded me with that comment, smash heads into the wall, you reminded me of what Xi Jinping said, okay? When he was celebrating the 100-year anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party, he said, anybody who gets in the way of China's reunification with Taiwan is going to get their head smashed to dust. Remember he said that? Is that where you got that?
It was ringing in my mind, Maria, that the rhetoric was just being raised, and I thought it would be a good comeback. But, you know, at this point, we got to face reality here. China is not just a trade war. We have to figure out a way to finally fix the problems that have existed since 2000 when they joined the WTO. They've never abided by the rules and regulations, ever. There's no mechanism by which you can dispute any kind of business issue, including IP theft. And it's a typical situation. I'll make it very simple for everybody to understand. You invest in innovation in the United States, and the product takes off, and as soon as it hits a run rate of 5 million annually, it gets knocked off in China, manufactured there, reintroduced into the U.S. market at around 30 to 40% off, because they don't have to recuperate any R&D, and sometimes the original innovating company goes bankrupt. I've kind of had enough of that now. I've been watching it. I've never been able to litigate there, and I can't even get access to their financial markets or even sell products there sometimes without having a partner that's 51%. I want you to be aware of something, Maria, that I think people missed yesterday. Atkins was approved. His nomination went through for head of the SEC. Then Senator Scott issued a letter, made it public yesterday, that he had asked this person to enforce the law about delisting Chinese companies that were not compliant with GAAP. They were given 3 years, then the law was modified to give them 2 years. None of them were compliant. There's billions of dollars trading this morning that I think Chinese companies that are not compliant, they're going to get delisted. I think this new sheriff at the SEC isn't going to mess around. And I think this is important to continue the pressure on China to come to the table.
Yeah, it's a great point because I asked Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent this very question yesterday. I mean, look, Kevin, we talk about this all the time. We've got all these companies, Chinese companies, trading on U.S. exchanges. Some of them have already been sanctioned. Some of them have already been put on certain lists, you know, blacklists or whatever in the U.S., and they're still trading on U.S. exchanges and, enabling or allowing U.S. investors to buy these stocks and, in effect, fund the expansion of our #1 adversary. So I'm wondering how far they're going to go. Do we have that Scott Bessent soundbite? Because I went and I asked the Treasury Secretary about that and, to see how tough they could be, because that's an economic lever that people have been afraid to pull. I don't know about this administration, but most administrations are afraid to pull that lever. China will be very upset. Here's my conversation yesterday with Scott Bessent, on Wednesday, when I asked him this very question. Watch this, Kevin. How would you assess the Chinese economy right now?
They were in a recession/depression due to a real estate collapse that had a real estate bubble that is deflating. That had been going on for years, and the economy was in terrible shape. So again, they're going to go from bad to terrible, and that which is unsustainable will be unsustainable.
Yeah.
The other thing that the Chinese should not do is try to devalue their way out of this, because back to our European friends, our Japanese allies, our Korean allies, the Vietnamese, if China starts devaluing, then that is a tax on the rest of the world, and everyone will have to keep raising their tariffs to offset the devaluation.
Yeah.
So I would urge them not to do that and to come to the table.
How far are you willing to take this in terms of this soft war with China? We've got Chinese stocks trading on U.S. exchanges. U.S. investors are buying those stocks, and that's helping China fund its military. Let's face it. Are you willing to go that far to remove Chinese stocks from U.S. exchanges?
Well, Maria, I think everything's on the table. We are putting in process export controls for high-value security-related goods. We are talking about the capital export capital controls in terms of, as you said, a blacklist of things that U.S. Whether pension funds, endowments, investors should not be investing in to fund the Chinese military machine. But that'll be President Trump's decision.
So what do you think about that, Kevin? I'm so glad you brought up the confirmation of Paul Atkins. That is a key point. I agree with you.
Well, here's my challenge to the administration. I'm an investor. I take companies public on NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange. I pay millions of dollars each year in compliance. I have no choice but to be compliant and transparent and abide by GAAP. And right beside me, issuing shares without any guidance at all, are Chinese companies. I'm competing for that dollar. I'm investing in our markets and being compliant. And my Chinese competitor, same bank I'm using, is going to institutions the same day on a roadshow and raising money for what's called a shadow share. It's not even a real share. They don't even have any rights. And they're taking my dollar. They're taking my dollar. So I'm putting up my hand saying, wait a minute, just follow the law. Delist these companies, make them be compliant like I am. And I speak on behalf of every American investor. Enough is enough. And I don't know why this is going on. I'm only asking the new chair, uphold the law. Just uphold the law. That's it.
So I know why it's going on. I know why it's going on. It's going on because Wall Street firms make money on it. Okay? That's why it's going on. Because they want to make money selling these stocks to the public. And they want to make money raising money for Chinese companies. What else? How else is it going on? That's how it's going on Wall Street.
Listen, I appreciate that, Maria, and I use those banks, and many of those people I call friends. But they can't do this anymore because they're going to have to also abide by the law. All of this softness, I don't know why Gensler didn't pursue this. My estimation as of this morning, somewhere between $500 to $700 billion worth of market capitalization that should be delisted, taken off the exchanges, and further pressure on the Chinese to come to the table.
Yeah, so Chinese Communist Party leadership wants to get tough with President Trump. I wouldn't recommend it, okay? There's a lot to lose here for the Chinese leadership, a lot to lose. Meanwhile, let's talk about TikTok. The deal for TikTok to divest U.S. operations to an American company, currently on hold, China pausing the process in response to the U.S. tariffs. President Trump told reporters yesterday the deal is still on the table, though. Watch.
Where does the TikTok deal stand, given what we've seen, the tariffs to China?
Moving along, but obviously I would say right now China's not exactly thrilled about signing it. We have a deal with some very good people, some very rich companies that would do a great job with it, but we're going to have to wait to see what's going to happen with China. So
is the president still on the table?
No, it's on the table very much. I think China's going to want to do it, actually.
So, Kevin, the CCP is going to use whatever it can to push back on tariffs.
Well, there's further definition on the TikTok deal. And for some of us that were in the syndicates that were looking at buying and renting or leasing the algorithm and keeping TikTok the way it is past the 75 days, those hopes have been dashed. That was done yesterday when Senator Cotton, along with Scott, said, look, and he went public. I was attending a working lunch of senators 2 days ago in Washington, same day of the hearings on China. And the question came up. It was just an informal session. And Senator Cotton got up and said, no, I'm not going to allow any American company to do business with the Communist Party of China. And they are not getting anywhere near that algorithm into an American platform. So the idea that you can buy TikTok now and somehow have some arrangement around the algorithm, that's dead. And that's just not going to happen because you're going to get such pushback from the lawmakers and also the Supreme Court, the 9-0 order. So that path has been shut off. And now we're going to have to figure out how do we buy this thing? And we'll probably have to rewrite the entire algorithm, which, by the way, is not that hard anymore. But that, Senator Cotton, he went public with that 3 hours later. It's out there now. He said the same thing publicly. He's not a fan of the Chinese algorithm. No. He considers it weapons-grade spyware, and he's made it known that that's not a path investors can take.
He knows China better than most, so he knows exactly what their tactics are. Kevin, it's great to see you. And by the way, if you want to know more about all those Chinese stocks trading on U.S. exchanges, I did a whole deep dive in it in our special on Fox Nation, Underwriting the Enemy. It is streaming now. Check it out. Underwriting the Enemy Season 2 is up at Fox Nation, streaming now. Stay with us. Kevin, good to see you. Thank you, sir. We'll be right back.